But there was an update to UAE's labour laws. They were brought into force in February. And to get more details about this, the UAE government has also lifted a 3-year cap on the duration of fixed-term employment contracts in the private sector. There are new amendments. For more details, Ahmed Al Khalil works for Al Shamsi Lawyers and Legal Consultants, and he's on the phone. Thank you for joining us on Talk 100.3.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me over.
No, it's great to have you on for this Monday. There have been changes. What are the new amendments that have been made to the UAE's labour law?
So the amendments take the form of an order saying that they are going to be removing the cap. Now, the issue with that is
that's the 3-year cap that's going to be removed.
Yes, correct. So yes, the law initially said that there is a cap of 3 years for fixed-term contracts. However, they have discussed and removed that 3 years. Now, removing it also means that the Ministry of Human Resources and Amortization should, in theory, implement it. And the issue we've had in the past is that the law said a maximum of 3 years. When it came down to us getting that approval from the ministry, they didn't grant 3 years, they granted 2. So I'm hoping that they will enforce the instructions issued to them and the amendments.
So these rules that are coming in do not apply to employees in the public sector or domestic workers, do they?
Correct. The law doesn't apply to them. Even the old law did not apply to them, but it was just reinforced with the new one.
So when most companies issue a contract, it's to protect both the employee and generally the employer on a vague term. What are the benefits for the company and the employee with the lifting of this 3-year cap?
So it definitely gives employees the comfort of knowing that their contract is not going to be renegotiated or even terminated after 3 years. It also gives the employer the same comfort that is granted to the employee. So both parties go in saying, you know what, this is going to be a 5-year term. Both parties honor the 5-year terms. So it's protection for both.
Okay, so that does work. So it's really going to pave the way for a lot of businesses and the workers to agree on longer-term contractual obligations. But in the real world, doesn't it make it harder to try and get a pay rise if you're locked into a 5-year deal?
It definitely does. It doesn't preclude you from actually saying that, provided that we're going to be, you're hitting targets, so on and so forth, you'd be able to be granted a salary increase. Parties can still negotiate. However, if you look at it from the beginning point of view, yes, you're going to be locked in for at least 5 years.
Yeah, so
it's kind of the same as the old concept, though. If you're on an unlimited term contract, you never know when that pay raise is going to come.
Do you know why we had the 3-year fixed term in the first place?
I think they wanted to move away from the idea of having an indefinite term contract. I don't know the reasoning behind it because I always saw the indefinite as administratively a more beneficial procedure because you didn't have to renew it every once in a while. Now, with the new one, it does say, let's say, 3-year terms, and if neither party terminates, then it automatically renews for the same period of time. So it's kind of a hybrid between both of them. I still thought the indefinite one would have made more sense. Now, maybe they're going to tie it in with immigration to say that, if you're going to get 5 years, you can get a 5-year visa. Maybe that's the ultimate game, but we don't know the reasoning behind it.
So this will also cover employees. This covers employees in free zones and the mainland companies. And there's always going to be that exemption of the Dubai International Financial Centre and also parts of the Abu Dhabi global market. Have you in this situation had any companies reach out to you in regards to the changing of laws? Because, quite often when in a lot of countries, when there is a change to the labour laws, there are many companies that don't keep up just through negligence, not through intentionally bad management.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've the phones have been ringing off the hook from our clients, existing clients, and new ones that have either heard us on the radio or just read it on the newspapers or one of the internet websites. So it has been going on quite a bit, and a lot of them, even when we're talking to them about, they have somebody they wish to terminate, they don't know that the new law came into effect. And again, it's not due to negligence. It's not due to malicious intent. It might be just that they were unaware of it.
They're unaware of the law. So what is that new law that you were referring to when it comes down to looking to terminate a worker?
So, the biggest change came about with something called arbitrary dismissal. So based on the old law, if you had an indefinite term contract and you terminated an employee for reasons other than the ones found within the law, such as, falsifying documents, taking up a false identity, assault, so on and so forth, you would have to pay him something called arbitrary dismissal compensation. The new law completely removes that concept. So if you want to terminate an employee for any reason it may be, you don't have that obligation to pay a compensation for, terminating their employment. It's the same with the old fixed-term contracts. If either party broke the fixed-term contract, there was compensation either by the employer or the employee. New law has no compensation.
So when it comes down to the change in those arbitrary dismissals, do you see that as an advantage for companies to be able to fire employees, or do you see this maybe as an advantage to workers that companies may be more willing to take on new employees because it's easier to get rid of them?
It depends on if you look at it from a pessimistic or optimistic point of view,
Yeah.
I guess. Because, from our perspective, I look at it as though you are definitely giving a disadvantaged position to the employee.
Okay.
Because they can terminate your employment and just pay you. You still get paid your rights under the law. It's just far less than it would have been if it was based on the old law. Now, again, it's also, if you look at the old fixed-term contracts, if I was an employee and I resigned before the end of the contract, I have to pay them compensation. So you can argue it either way. I personally think it disadvantages the employee more.
No, I think it's becoming more and more why it's such an entrepreneurial city, and the next generation of kids coming out of university are more likely to go it alone rather than be at the risk of working for someone else, which is a totally different conversation. However, if you do want to have any questions or you have any issues surrounding these changes to the UAE's labour law, you can always get in contact with Al Shamsi lawyers and legal consultants. Ahmed Al Khalil, thank you very much for joining us again on Talk 100.3.
Thank you for having me on. You have a good night.
You too. Enjoy yourself. So there is, as we said, Ahmed Al Khalil from Al Shamsi Lawyers and Legal Consultants. The change is to that UAE labour law, where the UAE government has lifted a 3-year cap on the duration of fixed-term employment contracts in the private sector. The new labour laws were brought into force in February. And what do you think of this? Do you think that it does help the worker, or do you see this as perhaps more of an advantage to the employee? Does it increase your job security, or maybe does it make it easier for employers to be able to get rid of you? Let us know your thoughts. 0586 8610